Hi, this is Brad, and welcome to Brad English Podcast, your daily English listening podcast helping you speak English naturally. In November 2025, a woman named Elena Van Berg, who was 29 years old and worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized pharmaceutical company in Amsterdam, Netherlands, received an email from a potential client company based in Sydney, Australia. The email was in English and asked whether Elena's company would be interested in a formal business partnership. Elena could read and understand the email completely. She could not write a professional response in English that she felt confident sending. She spent 3 hours drafting and redrafting a reply, consulted 2 colleagues in her office on the Herengracht Canal, and ultimately sent a response that was technically correct but stiff, slightly formal, and missing the warm professional tone that would have made a strong first impression. The Sydney company replied politely. The partnership conversation eventually faded. Elena told me later that she believed she lost a significant professional opportunity not because of her expertise, her marketing skills, or her company's capabilities, but because of one email she did not know how to write well in English. Today, this episode is for Elena. We are going through 100 professional English sentences organized across the 3 most important contexts of business English: emails, meetings, and professional conversations. These are sentences that have real professional consequences. Let us begin. The subject line of a professional email in English is the first thing your reader sees, and it determines whether the email is opened immediately, opened later, or deprioritized until it is forgotten. Effective English subject lines are specific, brief, and action-oriented where possible. Partnership inquiry. Pharma distribution Q3 2026 is more effective than regarding our possible future partnership. Follow-up. Meeting notes from November 14th is more effective than notes from our meeting. Action required. Contract review by Friday signals urgency and clear expectation immediately. The most powerful subject lines in professional English answer 2 questions in 10 words or fewer. What is this about? And what do I need to do? The opening sentence of a professional email establishes the relationship and the purpose simultaneously. And in English business culture, this sentence must be both warm and efficient. For a first contact, an effective opening is, "I hope this email finds you well. My name is Elena, and I am the marketing coordinator at BioNova International in Amsterdam. I am writing to introduce our company and to explore whether there might be a mutually beneficial opportunity to work together." This opening does 4 things. It uses a standard warm opener. It introduces the writer, it identifies the company, and it states the purpose. For a follow-up email, after a meeting or a previous communication, the opening should acknowledge the previous interaction specifically. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us on the 14th of November. Your insights on the Asia-Pacific distribution landscape were genuinely valuable and gave our team several new directions to consider. This kind of specific, genuine acknowledgement is far more effective than a generic "thank you for meeting with us," because it demonstrates that the writer was present, attentive, and reflective during the previous interaction. When writing to someone you have not met and are cold contacting for the first time, the most important principle is to make the value proposition clear in the first 2 sentences. A value proposition means the specific benefit you are offering to the other party. We specialize in pharmaceutical distribution across Western Europe and have partnerships with 22 hospitals in 8 countries. I am writing because I believe our network could be a valuable addition to your Australian supply chain. 2 sentences, one about who you are, one about why it matters to the reader. The body of a professional English email must achieve a difficult balance. It must contain all the necessary information without overwhelming the reader, and it must be organized in a way that is instantly comprehensible, even when the reader is skimming quickly. The most effective organizational tool in professional English email writing is the use of one paragraph per point, with each paragraph no longer than 3 to 4 sentences. Regarding the timeline, we would propose beginning the pilot program in February 2026 and evaluating results after 90 days. This gives both teams adequate preparation time while maintaining commercial momentum. 2 sentences. 1 point. Clear and complete. Sentence structures that make professional English emails more effective include the use of could you and would you rather than can you and will you, because the modal could and would are more polite and more appropriate for written professional communication. Could you confirm your availability for a video call next week? Rather than can you confirm? The difference is small, but consistently noticed by native speakers and associated with higher levels of professional polish. Similarly, I wanted to check whether is softer and more collaborative than I need to know whether. Closing lines in professional English emails carry significant weight because they are the last thing the reader encounters. A professional email that closes with "I look forward to hearing from you" is pleasant but generic. A professional email that closes with "I look forward to continuing this conversation and to exploring what we might build together" is warmer, more specific, and more memorable. Even better for a critical first contact email, I would be happy to arrange a brief introductory call at a time that works for you. Please do not hesitate to reach out, and I will make it work. This closing creates an immediate next step and signals flexibility and eagerness without desperation. You now have 40 sentences for your professional emails. Subject lines that get opened, openings that establish trust, bodies that communicate clearly, and closings that create the next conversation. But email is only 1/3 of professional English. The meeting room is where real professional relationships are built and real professional power is demonstrated. Part 2 is the meeting room, including the one sentence that Elena's colleague used in a Sydney conference call in December 2025 that changed the entire direction of the negotiation. Professional meetings in English have a specific opening ritual that most learners are not taught, but that native speakers follow instinctively. The person leading the meeting opens with a combination of welcome, agenda setting, and housekeeping. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. I can see we have participants from Amsterdam and Sydney today, which is exciting. We have about 45 minutes together, and I want to make sure we cover the 3 main points on the agenda: the distribution proposal, the timeline, and the next steps. Does anyone have anything urgent to add before we begin? This opening does 5 things in approximately 60 words. It greets, it acknowledges the participants specifically, it sets the time expectation, it lists the agenda, and it invites contribution before starting. Joining a meeting as a participant, rather than a leader, requires a different but equally specific set of sentences. When you join an online call, the standard English check-in is, "Good morning, can everyone hear me okay?" If you join late, apologies for joining a moment late. I hope I have not missed anything critical. If you need to leave early, I should mention that I have a hard stop at 2 o'clock, so I may need to drop off slightly before the end. The phrase hard stop is standard professional English for a fixed, non-negotiable end time, and drop off means to leave the call. Taking the floor in a meeting, which means claiming the opportunity to speak, is one of the most practically important conversational skills in professional English. The most effective phrases for this are, "If I could just jump in here for a moment," and "building on what you just said," and "I wanted to add something to that point, if I may." These phrases are simultaneously assertive and courteous, claiming space without taking it aggressively, which is the precise tone that professional English meeting culture rewards. Asking questions in a professional meeting requires the same politeness balance. "Could I ask a question about the timeline?" is more effective than "I have a question." I wonder if you could clarify what you mean by a pilot program. Is more effective than what do you mean? The extra words in the polite version signal respect, and in professional English, signaling respect is a professional competence. Disagreeing in professional English is perhaps the most nuanced skill in this entire episode, because it requires expressing a contrary view without creating a conflict, maintaining the relationship while challenging the idea. Native English professional speakers have developed a specific set of phrases for this that learners almost never encounter in formal education, but that are used constantly in every English-speaking meeting room. I see where you are coming from, and I want to add a slightly different perspective is a perfect example. It validates the other speaker's position before introducing the alternative. That is an interesting approach. I wonder if we have also considered the risks associated with moving that quickly. Introduces concern through curiosity rather than direct challenge. The sentence that Elena's colleague used in the Sydney conference call in December 2025 was this: "I completely understand the appeal of that timeline, and I want to make sure we set ourselves up for success. Would it be possible to build in a review checkpoint at the 30-day mark so we can adjust if needed?" That sentence disagreed with a proposed timeline by reframing the disagreement as a concern for shared success and proposing a specific, constructive alternative. The Sydney team agreed immediately. The checkpoint was included in the contract. The partnership moved forward. One sentence, built from 3 specific politeness structures: validation, concern framing, and constructive alternative. That is the architecture of effective professional English disagreement. Meeting wrap-up language is brief but important. I think we have covered the key points. Let me quickly summarize what we have agreed. Then a concise summary followed by, "Are there any remaining questions before we close?" Then, thank you everyone for a really productive conversation. I will send meeting notes by end of day tomorrow, and our next call is scheduled for the 7th of December. These sentences close the meeting professionally, confirm the next action, and leave all participants with a clear shared understanding. Emails, 40 sentences. Meetings, 30 more. But the third context of professional English is the one that most learners find the most frightening and the most important. The real-time, unscripted phone or video call, the networking event, the negotiation table. Part 3 is where professional English becomes truly fluent, and where one set of sentences could change the trajectory of a career. Professional phone calls in English produce a specific anxiety in learners that is different from the anxiety of face-to-face conversation or written communication. The phone removes 2 of the most important support systems, body language and visual context. Everything depends on the words, the pace, the tone, and the listening. For learners, this additional difficulty makes phone English feel like a higher-stakes version of an already challenging skill. But it is entirely learnable through practice with specific phrases. Opening a professional call requires a brief and clear self-identification. "Good morning, this is Elena from BioNova International calling for James. Is he available?" Is the standard English professional call opening. Greeting, identification, company, the name of the intended recipient, and a question about availability. If you are the person receiving the call, the standard response is, "Good morning, BioNova International, Elena speaking. How can I help you?" Both of these structures are formulaic and almost universal across professional English contexts. Handling difficulties during a professional call requires specific sentences. "I am sorry. Could you repeat that? I want to make sure I have understood correctly," is appropriate for clarifying something you missed. "I am afraid the connection is not very clear on my end. Would it be possible to move to a video call?" is appropriate for audio quality problems. "I would like to give this the consideration it deserves. Could I follow up with you by email once I have reviewed the details?" is the professional equivalent of, "I need time to think, phrased in a way that is completely positive and professional. Conference English adds the visual component back, but introduces its own specific challenges. I think we may have lost someone. Let me just check if everyone is still with us. And could I share my screen to walk you through the data? And my video seems to have frozen. Let me just restart it quickly. Are sentences that come up in almost every professional video call, and that, when delivered calmly and correctly, signal technical competence and what we might call unflappable professionalism. Unflappable means remaining calm and in control in difficult or stressful situations. Professional networking in English is one of the most genuinely conversational contexts in business life, and it requires a blend of social ease, professional confidence, and strategic intention. The most useful networking opener in English is one that most people overthink. Hi, I do not think we have met. I am Elena. I work in marketing for a pharmaceutical company based in Amsterdam. This opener is warm, direct, and gives the other person 3 clear things to respond to: the name, the function, and the location. The response will almost always include the other person's name, their function, and some connection or question about yours. Moving from the initial greeting to a meaningful, professional conversation requires transition questions that are specific but open-ended. What brings you to this conference? And what are the most interesting developments in your industry right now? And I have been following some of the regulatory changes in the European pharmaceutical market. Is that affecting you as well? These questions show genuine professional curiosity and create conversation that is substantive rather than superficial. The most memorable people at networking events are almost never the ones who talk most about themselves. They are the ones who ask the most genuinely interesting questions. Professional negotiation in English requires a vocabulary of position, flexibility, and mutual benefit. Our preferred position on the timeline would be to begin in March, though we are open to discussing what works best for both teams, establishes a position without closing off negotiation. I think we are very close on the commercial terms. The main point still to agree is the exclusivity clause. Can we focus there? Identifies the remaining gap and directs the conversation toward resolution. We could be flexible on the payment terms if we could find an agreement on the volume commitment. Is a classic negotiation exchange, offering flexibility on one point in exchange for movement on another. Elena, in Amsterdam, spent 3 months after her Sydney email experience systematically learning the professional English sentences in this episode. In March 2026, she received another email from a different potential partner, this time a company based in Melbourne, Australia. She replied within 40 minutes. The reply was clear, warm, professional, and effective. A meeting was scheduled for the following week. She handled the meeting confidently, used her new meeting English without hesitation, and walked out with a letter of intent. She called her manager on the Herengracht that afternoon and said, simply, "I think we have a new partnership." Her manager said, "Good work, Elena." She smiled and thought to herself, in English for the first time with complete comfort, "Yes, it is." Today you heard 100 professional English sentences, 40 for emails, 30 for meetings, and 30 for phone calls, networking, and negotiation. These sentences are organized the way professional life is organized, and they are designed to be immediately usable in the actual professional contexts you are already in or working toward. They will not make you a native speaker. What they will do is give you the specific language you need to handle the specific professional situations where English matters most. Elena lost one opportunity in November 2025 because of one email she did not know how to write. In March 2026, she created a new opportunity because she had learned the language she needed. The difference between those two moments was not talent. It was preparation. You are now more prepared than you were at the beginning of this episode. Take these sentences, practice them, use them in your next professional English context, and notice what becomes possible when you have the right words at the right moment. I will see you in the next episode.